Hi, my name's Dee, your Professor of Woo Woo, and welcome back to Sunchild Tarot, and welcome back to the Black Moon, Beltane, Walpurgisnacht, Partial Solar Eclipse, conjunct Uranus. What could go wrong? I have with me, as ever, Astrologer David Fischer. How are you doing, David?
I'm good as always, Dee. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Now, I know I say with practically every full moon video, I love this moon. Now, I am not saying that I love this eclipse, but I am saying that I love this eclipse chart. It is fascinating. I have, there has been so much I've been diving into it and then just going, oh, look, a butterfly, and going off on a complete tangent. So there's various things that I have not done for this chart already. But I'm seeing it now, because we've had some discussion beforehand. How can I put it? On an underlying secretive level that's not obvious, there are good things going to come out of this chart. They are going to come out through irritation, through obstacles and irritations. But there's some jollies that can be had, but those jollies ain't going to last. So you might as well enjoy them for the 5 minutes that they're there, because as we know, the next eclipse is nowhere near as nice as this one. But I have been talking about this chart. I've been talking about this chart for months, to a point of boring everybody, I think, haven't I, David? You know, so right, go on. What do you think of it? What do you think is in store for us?
Well, I also noticed a lot of particularities in this chart that were interesting. Like you have some trines, like a repentance of trines, for instance, within the chart, the chart of the full moon and the 12-part chart, or the 12-part distributions. And you have, for instance, D, you found several semi-sextiles. It was 11 in total in this chart. Semi-square, sorry.
Yeah.
And so when you have these, and I don't particularly want to use modern aspects, but I know that they are another way of calculating the relationships between the planets, and that's totally fine. It's just another method that I don't use. But at the same time, when you notice that there are recurring patterns in the sky, geometrical patterns in particular, you notice that there is a particular type of reality being brought into circumstance. There is a certain type of thing manifesting, much like crystals grow up to become larger structures that mirror the smaller molecular structures that they are composed of. Reality works much the same way. So if you see these relationships, geometrical relationships, which the aspects are in the sky, you also see a kind of reality manifesting that is resonant to that particular energy in the study field, in the way we study it. Now, let me bring up the chart for you all to...
Just before you do, there's one thing I want to ask. And this is a surprise question. I know I should have told you about this beforehand.
No, that's okay.
How would you consider the duration of the energy of this chart?
You mean, and that's something I actually meant to bring up with you before we started, but I forgot. Generally, you see the duration or the effects of that eclipse. There are a few ways to determine that, but the one that I generally go to is the time. Just convert whatever time the eclipse is going to be lasting. So for an hour, for 2 hours, for half an hour, whatever it is.
4 hours.
Half an hour is too, yeah, half an hour is like too little. It wouldn't last that little. But you have whatever the time that it lasts, you will magnify that. So it can be years, it can be months. In the fixed signs, it's generally months or years, because the fixed signs represent a larger amount of time. So whatever amount of hours you have for this eclipse, so 4 hours, I'm glad you checked that, you extend for 4 years. And that's the easiest go-to way I have to check the time that this is probably going to go into effect.
And last night I was looking everywhere because I remembered that I had that fact in my head and I couldn't remember where I'd got it from, and I was looking everywhere. So yeah, it was you that told me.
And now that you mention it, And now that you mention it, like Brazil is going to have an election, a presidential election for this year, and by the end of this year, very close to the next eclipse season. And I'm thinking now that this particular eclipse is going to change the course of the election. Like right now, you're going to have the definitions of whoever is running and whoever is going to be considered as a third option, because we are right now torn between an extreme right and center left candidate. And I think we're going to have some definitive points here in this particular eclipse with that election that are going to be coming to a head in the next eclipse season, and then are going to propagate throughout the next 4 years, because it's going to impact the next term. So anyway.
It's interesting that you say 4 years, because I was worried I was over egging the pudding, because I was thinking this lunar cycle, so that's 1 month. Eclipses traditionally are looked at to last around 6 months. The North Node reaches 10 degrees Taurus in January next year. But this is very practically the Jupiter-Venus conjunction chart as well. They're only a minute apart on this chart. So that's more of a 2-year cycle going on, isn't it? Until Venus and Jupiter meet up again, if I remember correctly. Is it a year or a 2-year? I think it's 2 year, isn't it?
It can be a year. I think because Venus just went retrograde in Capricorn, that's going to be a year.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so to get 4 years out of it, I'm really chuffed, because I intend to keep working on this chart. Later this year, I will be presenting a course on angels and demons within the chart through Bloodstone Studios. That's bloodstone.info, Travis McHenry's site. And I have been looking for the perfect chart to use as the tool within this course. I have now found it, and this is why I love this chart. Right, go on, there's your cue, bring the chart up.
Okay, so this is what we are talking about. Actually, this is what we're talking about. That chart's for later. But you have the new moon here positioned in the first house placement, so just so you can see the distribution of the planets in relation to it. Now, it's great that you have benefics in a good superior testimony to the moon, because as Dee was saying earlier, this guarantees that in the long run, we have been informed by our true intentions. Now, that doesn't mean that just because we are doing something out of our true intentions that we're going to get it. And it's actually good that when we first have the experience of trying to do something by ourselves, of trying to do something that is risky for the first time in our lives, or at least for a first time in a long time, that we feel like we've failed, but just because, not fail completely, but we feel that there is something to be done after something initially didn't work out. It's just like that feeling of, well, I applied for this, it didn't work out the way I expected, it was very harsh, but at the same time, it gave me so much experience, and it allowed me to see another opportunity that I hadn't seen before. And that particular opportunity seems much more certain than the one that I applied for previously. So you have opportunities rising from failure, but it's not really failure. It's just you putting into action ideals that you've harnessed, that you've nurtured for a while, and on doing so, having the actual experience. It's that eclipse moment of light switched off and on again, and then you have a different perspective because you notice different things as the lights are switched back on. And so the benefics guarantee Jupiter and Venus by superior sextile in sign relationship to that moon, to that lunation. Guarantees to me that is going to be something that inspires good long-term work and satisfaction, but it's going to be more of a spiritual satisfaction, meaning you're going to be more aware of who you are, your capabilities. That's going to inspire you. You're going to have a different contact with someone that you didn't know you could be. And these things that are present with Jupiter in domicile and Venus exalted It's just our spirits saying to ourselves, you know what, it might be tough, but I know how to see the beauty in this situation because my spirit just feels so tired of looking at the bad side of things all the time, you know? And that's how we are generally feeling with this benefic conjunction. And that's what's motivating things to keep moving forward. But since this is an eclipse, unfortunately, the luminaries and what they signify, our consciousness, awareness, the relationship that we have to our perceptions within our bodies, the eclipse guarantees that we go for it, that we have the resources and the, what do you say, instincts, but when we apply for it, there is an eclipse and you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is actually what I'm doing. Why was I idealizing this? It's not actually what I want to do, because now that I have more experience with what I want to become, with what brings me joy and pleasure in some area, you have to look at Pisces in your chart, you have to look at Taurus. This Taurus thing that I'm doing doesn't seem to fit the narrative anymore, you see? And so I have to change. And then we can get a little bit onto describing Taurus and Scorpio. But do you want to say anything about what I've said so far?
Not so far, because I mean, the way I was looking at things, it's very much similar to the way that you're describing it. That yes, we are forging ahead on something. We are forging ahead, hopefully, on what we believe we want to build on, values that are precious to us, that are sacred to us. That's the Vestas right on top of Saturn. We're making the choice of, I want this, not that, because this is what is sacred to me. But we have to ensure, because of how strong Jupiter is in this chart, that we are being honest with ourselves and that we are having integrity about what it is that we say what we want. Because this, as we said, 11 semi-squares between the physical planets. Well, sorry, 10 and one with Lilith. And it's going to be irritating for all of us, but we will be rewarded if we are facing that irritation for a reason that we know, that we believe, and not just I want this, not just the inner knowing of I want this, therefore I'm going to have it, but I want this because it is right. I want
it is a necessity to become who I am and to sustain my life.
It is the right thing for me. It is the right thing for my family. It is the right thing. It's got to be right for you first, but it's also got to be right for everybody else around you.
Yeah, and don't let people deceive you saying that just because it's happening in the moon's exaltation, that's going to be a wonderful time. No, that's not. It's actually going to redefine to you pleasure in its root. It's going to redefine what gives you that instinct of belonging, that feeling of belonging and security within your relationships, within your society, within the institutions that you're a part of. So if your company, for instance, doesn't allow you to grow facial hair, but for some reason you are descendant from a culture or a family that uses facial hair, if you're a male, masculine individual, and you use that, and they use that as a pride or a proud symbol or a pride symbol or something like that. And you just like to have it because it reminds you of your grandfather, of your father, is somewhat of who you are. And the company doesn't allow you to keep your beard on. What are you going to do about that? You're going to just, shut off that that's a part of you and ignore that because you, it's a simple example, but when it mounts up to a lot, like we do this with a lot of things in our lives, it's not just the beard, it's everything. Capitalism puts us, and this is about the Taurus Scorpio axis, I'm going to get there. Capitalism puts us in these cycles where we constantly, and I'm taking this from one of my inspirations, Dana Lynn Knuckles. She's the People's Oracle in any platform. You guys should look for her material. She's amazing. And things that she taught me to think about in relation to the signs is just the way to see how they represent transcendental concepts like survival instinct, how do we feed ourselves, how do we sustain ourselves in our environment and are able to adapt and draw resources from them, how do we react when that's taken away from us, are we capable of seeking out new resources and reshaping the environment in order for it to become more suitable for us as we also become more suitable for it to adapt. Taurus and Scorpio talk about that a lot. And capitalism forces us to adapt to a certain narrative where we must obtain certain consume levels to be considered human, to feel belonging, to be considered like a person that deserves other people's attention. And we all are educated. Taurus, this is a collective thing, it's an instituted thing. We are all educated to look at people who do not fit these molds as outcasts, and we ignore them. Think about when you walk across a homeless person. You know, they're not homeless because they want to be homeless, as many of you will perhaps believe. No one wants to be homeless. Maybe we could create as a society places for these people to actually rehabilitate themselves, to understand how to work through their own capacities and who they are, and learn about who they are, while being of service to society and to themselves. You know, it's how it should be for everyone. And we can think about a structure like that. I'm not a communist here. We can think about a structure like that that will, and I'm saying I'm not a communist because I don't even know enough to understand communism, I think, in its full, form. Yeah. And it's just that we can think as a society about a different way of engaging with our ideals rather than just buying the next iPhone to show other people that I have enough financial power to be in certain circles that I want to belong to because I want to feel security. The need that is underlying all that is just feeling validated and secure, so you don't have to worry about what you're going to have to eat, how you're going to pay rent, how you're going to feed your family, how you're going to love the people that you love. You know, we just don't want to feel threatened. You want to be in the Taurus. Sorry?
That you will be heard.
That you will be heard. And that's Taurus. When we have good institutions, people are heard. People are sure and secure that they can go for those institutions and their needs are going to be met. And this is the abundance that Taurus speaks about that we can have as a society. But the nodes are going through it, and they are deceptive influences. And when eclipses happen, we have deceptive circumstances happening around those topics to really show us the nature of where we were heading ourselves to, like the fundamentals of why we were heading ourselves to where we were, to ourselves, like what our motivations were. With Taurus and Scorpio, it's talking about North Node in Taurus. Why are you seeking out to fulfill your needs in an abundant way? Meaning, why are you seeking out stability and long-term and security obsessively in these particular grounds? Why? With the nodes, you will never get like, oh, here you go, have it for free. It will always come with a question. It will always come with a catch that you will be like, oh, did I really want this? Why did I want this? Why was I pursuing this so obsessively throughout the years? And that's the nature of the North Node. And the South Node is just like, I need to spew it out now that I got it. And the South Node going through Scorpio is like, oh, I need to desperately get away from feeling hurt and from feeling pressured to feel secure. I need to be defensive about certain ideals in that Taurus obsession there to get to where I need to, because otherwise I will never be secure. You see, I can never have abundance. And this fear is completely making you lose it in your defensiveness. You know, it's going to hit hard in the places where we have been traumatized by being outcasts, by being told, you're not good enough. You're not going out looking like that. You look ridiculous. Or you're not good enough for this position. Look at you. You don't even look the part just because you're not the right race, you know? you don't fit in here. You don't fit in here just because you're not the right social scale. You know, we limit our interactions, which is our most powerful thing, love, interactions with one another, knowing one another according to what circumstance allows us to. We limit it by appearances, by what the institutions determine. And that's Taurus. And Scorpio is the threat of being outcast by not fulfilling one of those expectations. And how able are you to cope with that? Because that will happen regardless of who you are. You're going to feel outcast by one part of society or the next. Rich people who command the whole world feel somewhat othered by the ones they oppress. And they have that defensiveness instinct towards them. Whether it's fair or not, it's not the discussion. It's just their Scorpio speaking to them, their sense of defensiveness. You see, it's not a system that benefits anyone involved, really. It puts everyone who's on top on edge, and it puts everyone who is in the base in a miserable state forever. That's all.
There's another thing I would point. I would pick up with that South Node in Scorpio, which is taking a slightly different view of the South Node. How can I transform what I am already bringing to the table? What knowledge and experience that I have from this life, childhood, other lives, whatever way you look at it. But how can I transform what I already have, which has been limited to whatever system it was operating in, like you were just describing, and make it more useful? Because there is a search for beauty. When you said that the moon is in its exaltation, that got my memory going, because it's not the only one, is it? Jupiter is there going, I'm king, this is my sign, this is my home, this is my temple, this is mine, that's mine, that's mine. Everybody's welcome because, hey, I'm Jupiter. And
my favorite priestess is in the house.
And yes, Venus is exalted in Pisces. So, but it's not just that Venus is looking good in this chart. She's put some effort in, and to Jupiter, she's looking really, really, really good because she's at this exaltation degree and she is ruling this exalted moon. And there's obviously she's ruling Uranus as well. So there's certainly this, with those semi-squares, I was saying, with the irritations that we're going to face, there's so many unexpected things that are going to be popping up, and irritating us and annoying us. And, there'll be a few days where we want to pull our hair out. And according to you, that might be over the next 4 years. But, I was being gentle and just saying a year. And, but there's this demand here for that search for beauty. And there is a demand because Jupiter is involved, and I'll expand on this point later. Because Jupiter is involved, there is this demand for personal integrity, because Jupiter rewards that personal integrity. And that is why I'm saying it's not just what I believe is right for me, it's what I believe is right for me and that I am right for the benefit of me and mine and the neighbours, and even her down the road that I can't really stand, but she's not really done me any harm, but let's not get caught in the conversation with her.
Yes, but that's because you understand the need for others. And Taurus is not just about institutions, people. You have to understand that institutions are made up of people.
Yes.
And groups of people. So, and they are specific groups of people. It's not the capitalistic system in itself. It's just groups of people, oligarchies that are controlling the world. And I'm not talking about Illuminati here. That's not what where I'm going at. It's just, there are still very few rich people, amongst us. We are 7 billion. Only a few thousand of them are very, very rich and control the whole thing. So that's not very difficult to do, to get to a conclusion in your head. But we need to make sure that the institutions that we value and that we leave on top of our society are the ones that benefit all of us, or at least aim to open space for those who are different as they come up, in order that we can integrate new ways of being human. That's evolution, you know, of thought. That's evolution of technology. That's evolution of understanding of what human beings are, you know, and that has to be continuous. There's not just one expression of human. We are always evolving through time, and abundance comes when you can have that space for divergence and for multiplicity, exaltation of the moon, throughout time. And that's real abundance. It's not just having one square structure and having it go forever. That actually doesn't exist. It's ideal. It will never manifest in this earthly realm because it is the world of becoming, and it's always changing. And that's the consistency of time. But with our personal experiences, coming down a little bit, is more about the ways you felt rejected and how it informs the way you're still acting. For instance, you might have these high ideals, and now Saturn is squaring the nodes from Aquarius. So our choices, they are needing to prioritize things that are truly valuable to us because we have limited resource, because we have to self-determine who we are. And again, I'm drawing a lot from Dana Lynn. We have to determine a lot of who we are through our own circumstances and our own words. And we have to take up the words of other people and make them our own and say, okay, this is what I really am. This is what I'm here for. And if I'd rather do this or die, you know, or die trying, you know, to become that, because it's me and I cannot be anything else. Anything else would be a lie. Ties into what you were saying about Jupiter demanding us truth and how do you say?
Integrity.
Integrity, thank you. And you have Saturn square the nodes doing the same thing in its own sign. It beseeches us to look for good alliances that resonate with what we are trying to manifest in this earthly realm, so we can build those institutions. And that's Saturn in the 10th position of the moon. You want to have that sense of security. Go look for people that validate that sense of security inside of you and make up relationships with them so you can create a valid structure and actually manifest something into this realm. And with that, I want to tie in the fact that all triplicities except the fire triplicity are being benefited. And that means something too. If you have triplicity rulers, which are elemental capacities.
By triplicity, you are meaning the elements.
The elements, trigon lords, the lords of the same element. So we have the air signs being Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. And those have those triplicity rulers, which are three, very well placed: Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter. They're all in their own signs in this particular lunation. And that's very good for air signs because it is a time for ideals. It is a time for creating new ways of thinking about things. And that's abundantly given to us right now in a way that is truthful, in a way that will align with what we understand of ourselves, so long as we do the work of thinking, what do I really want? What do I really prioritize? Why? And if you're clear with that, you will have that. If you do that ritual of sitting down and thinking about that right now, you will be able to view all of these creative ideas popping up in front of you that you didn't see before. And you might be actually noticing that from your friends, which are an air sign quality as well. You might be noticing that in your communications, people are trying to put one another up, to bring one another up, to be like more cheerful and trying to be more, oh, you should do this, you should do that for your business in order to grow. I'm going to give your contacts to another person. These sorts of interactions are very much in vogue right now, and they are meant to be inspiring us. Even if it's just you sitting down and trying to be more creative, if you engage with it for a little while, for a day or two, the third day will be amazingly easier and you'll find a lot of joy in just doing that routinely, you see? And just ways to have creative outlets. And the Earth triplicity is not so, it wouldn't be so well because of the moon being eclipsed, but the moon is there, exalted, even though eclipsed. You have Venus being in a very good condition, Mars because it's received by both exaltation and domicile lord, and it's in triplicity by water, is also benefiting the earth signs, and it has a good context to all the earth signs. So those are also benefited in order for you to put those ideals into routine, you know, and trying to build something long-term. That's earth and air together. When your ideal becomes some routine, you know, you manifest the ideal through doing several rituals, separate rituals, small rituals, but constantly, so you can create something in the long term.
And again,
this is how you manifest air.
There's that theme of transformation with what I was saying with that Scorpio South node, because by taking these steps, using these ideals and ideas as well, and actually acting on them, doing something concrete, grounded with them, that in itself is a transformation. Now, we've also got Mercury trine, it's a loose trine, but Mercury trine to Pluto, haven't we?
Yes, I just want to finish the elemental qualities. I just want to finish the elemental qualities, okay, because I was describing each element for this purpose. Sorry, so going around, going with something that's routine, like trying to establish routines without a specific objective. This is important to say. Why? Because whatever you're trying to go for, again, the beginning of the video, it's not going to be manifested immediately as you wish, because you don't have the circumstances that are appropriate for it. Fire is like lightning. You need to have both poles aligned in such a way that through the air, they connect and are able to liberate energy through the elemental, particles in the air. They liberate all the energy that the interaction contains, you know, all the energy within those atoms. This is fire, but you have to have two poles and they have to connect in that way for it to happen. Without the fire triplicity being very helped here, you're going to be trying to manifest something specific. You're not going to be able to make it. You're going to be frustrated. But if you go with your routine, have curiosity about everything new that's coming up as you enact each small ideal, just so you can stimulate the creative process in itself rather than the goal of that particular creative process. Let's say you envision being a painter one day. Well, if you try to go for it now, you're not going to particularly make it. But if you try to study a new form of painting, or several ones at the same time, or just what?
Just pick up a brush.
Or just pick up a brush and start doing something with it, you will find your own footing with time, but it's not going to be immediate. And and that's what I'm saying. It's a long-term thing because it's in Taurus. But if you try to build anything long-term now, let's say open up a business, I wouldn't, no, you know, not in this particular lunation cycle, at least. If you did in the previous one or in the next one, that's another issue, that's another matter. But in this particular lunation cycle, trying to do that might just be a shot in the water, you know?
So again, I see that as leading up to a transformation and being driven to search for that personal beauty in the way that you're saying. Because if we're not doing things for a specific end, then we are doing things because it feels right and we believe it is right. And that's the foundation that we're building here. But I'd bring back to that, what do you make of that out of sign, but quite close trine between Mercury and Pluto, with Pluto being stationary, Mercury in its power.
Well, Mercury's also stationary and he's going to go back to trine Pluto. So it is kind of a relationship that has been set when Mercury first trine Pluto, and it's going to reignite. It's going to keep reigniting itself as the aspect come in to sign boundaries.
Yeah, we're going to have 3 passes of that, aren't we?
Yeah, but I believe that's actually the contra and Tisha, is it?
Is it?
I think it's the contra and Tisha that you were mentioning.
It might be.
It's
Yeah.
Pluto. It's
No.
Pluto and Mercury.
No, it wouldn't be. No, Mercury
would.
would need to be another degree over.
No. Pluto is 2835. The Antisha exactly would be what? 125?
1 degree 25, yeah. So it's not far.
Yeah, that's the exact. So it's within 1 degree of application of that Antisha, and it's still going to move forward a few degrees, 4 degrees, I think, or 3 degrees. So it's going to complete that Antisha that's very closely applying to that counter Antisha, sorry. Is it contra Antisha?
It's Antisha around Aries, isn't it?
No, it's contra Antisha around Aries, you're right.
All right.
I'm right. It's contra. And it means that, see, the way Shita describes it in his course, for instance, is it's a secretive opposition between these two forces, and it can manifest as hidden news between power dynamics that you weren't aware of, you know, behind the scenes, and that you're made aware of, and then you're like, fuck, now I have to account for another thing that I didn't see coming, and that's screwing up my whole plan. And it's something that is triggering because Pluto is a long-term wound kind of thing with power dynamics. And it's gonna have to do with ideals, like where are your ideals, with Mercury going retrograde within this cycle in particular. It's going to have to do with, again, going forward with something and being like, wait a minute, why am I doing this again? I had all of these ideals, but now it seems like my long-term stability is kind of threatened by trying to keep going with this, you know? And so should I be really doing this? Is this really what brings me joy? Is this really where I want to be heading with my life? Do I really want to keep struggling the way I am? Do I really want to keep do I really want to keep bored even the way I am? And because that, yeah, if you're too privileged to feel bored with life in that way, you probably are kind of demanding from other people around you and being defensive around other people around you, that they fulfill that need for entertainment or for inspiration. And that might be triggering also for them and for you, and might be triggering that sensation of being abandoned by your family who didn't know how to quite give you love. And again, Scorpio Taurus, and how capitalism allows us to not really deal with each other.
I would challenge how we use the word bored there. Because...
Yeah, I used it in a specific way.
Yeah, there's... because I'm into a point, I think I'm very privileged that I rarely get bored. Rarely get bored. And even when there's new problems that come up, I still know that there's points in time where it will change, it will pass, and
yeah, it's being aligned to your truth
to get on with that I'm not bored with, you know.
Yeah, it's being aligned with your truth and being interested in your own process and your own daily life, because being alive in itself is just not boring. You wouldn't be boring to be a rock, you could argue.
That's a perfect segue into the next thing that I wanted us to tackle, because the not boring aspect of this chart. We have an eclipse, notoriously unstable, conjunct Uranus, notoriously unstable. Both being ruled by Venus, who is being made larger by Jupiter. So I think that where you were saying we're going to be asking ourselves the questions, do I enjoy this? Do I like that? Why am I doing this? I think we're going to get plenty of stimuli to ask those questions, and the vast majority of them will be from left field. So that, again, is where that irritation comes from. It's because I just got my heart set on doing this, and now there's this thing, but, oh, there's this thing. you know. And it could
And
be
that's the
cool
Pisces
then, or
energy,
like,
really.
oh God, I've got to deal with this now.
That's the Pisces energy, really. That anxiety from the South Node is being trined by Mars and we are going to go into the 12th part soon, I feel like.
Yeah.
But this trine from the South Node to Mars by sign and to Neptune, to me, is just like, where can I fit an ideal into this void that's just getting me to try and cut off my relationships with everyone and everything? You know, how can I just fulfill this void? And there's this screaming necessity that thankfully is having an outlet by the presence of the benefics. But soon enough, that's not going to be enough anymore, because you're going to have those two benefics almost simultaneously shifting into Aries. So they are going to, I think I'm almost sure that Jupiter is going to get into Aries before Venus leaves.
Yeah.
But then Mars is going to be like, well, I had all this idealism in Pisces, but right now I feel like actually doing something and actually manifesting something, you know, into reality. And it's kind of frustrating how it doesn't match the ideal exactly. And so you have to be very clear of why you're doing things if you don't want to get completely frustrated when Mars ingresses Aries, because that's what you're going to get. But it is going to be better if you right now you're able to just steam off in these outlets of joy and just create a stability in your routine, just with the little creative moments that you have. That has to be stable. That has to be manifested. It's the little things. It's the hobbies. It's the simple pleasures that you get time to manifest in your routine, whatever they are. Just making a cup of tea for yourself while breathing deeply. You know, the very least you can do, you should and you must create a routine with that, because that's going to be the generative, the abundance generating action that you'll be able to take. Once Mars ingresses Aries, there's going to be a whole can of worms, other can of worms, and you're going to be like, well, okay, I've been a little frustrated because all I can do is have these outlets, but they're good enough to keep me going. And now I know how to just handle the pressure of what I need to do without freaking out because I steamed off, you know, while things were in Pisces.
Choices that you make right now are important. This is something
you're going to be able to steer the wheel.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to be able to steer the wheel further on if you steam off right now.
Jupiter rewards the integrity is that thing that I keep harping on about. But there's I want to talk actually for a moment about the angel of this degree. So let me see, I have forgotten which quinance the moon is in. So it's in the moon, it's in the quinance of Hahahel, but the actual angel of the degree is, and I always stumble when saying this, is Hahahel or Hahahel. But this is really a very interesting angel. Now, this is in a very short definition, you can say that Hahahel is about self-esteem and a sense of mission, was an angel of the order of virtues. Now, there's an importance here because Hahahel is the degree angel of 10 degrees Taurus, which is being ruled by this exalted Venus, which is conjunct Uranus, and Hahahel was also the angel of the degree of the last time that Venus and Uranus were conjunct. So there's this statement that's going forward, and there's very much Hahahel is, for instance, in Travis's angel oracle, it says mission, protection against slander and impious people. Where's that impious people that looking for your own integrity? But there's an interesting
and Venus has to do with piety. Yeah.
while all these questions are being thrown at us of, do I really enjoy this? Why did I enjoy this? What did I ask for this for? Is this why I'm doing this? Oh, there was this sparkly thing, but it's just cheap, crappy gold paint and it's not sparkly. One of the things, quoting from the Book of the Hidden Name, for those that feel they possess a divine purpose or mission but cannot identify it, Hahahel offers his help to find the path and help discern essential steps for the future. So there's Hahahel is empowering all of these questions by this Venus-Uranus cycle, which we are coming to a close of. So this is almost Hahael's final push in this Venus-Uranus cycle to go, for God's sake, there's more. Yeah, for God's sake, there's more to life. I think it is one of the
There's more to life, definitely. And that's the feel that I get from this eclipse, really.
There's more things, you know, let some of those restrictions drop away through that south node. Some of the, I mean, I've heard a lot of because obviously I watch every single YouTube astrology video I could get on the eclipse before we make this one. But despite the fact that it's a north node eclipse and it's a new moon, a lot of people have been saying about letting things go. Now, I think that there is an element of letting things go, but not in the headline ways that some people have been saying it. You are not letting things go because you are letting things go. You are letting things go because you are picking something else up and your hands can only carry so many items at once. You know, it's not a computer game where you're just constantly putting med packs and ammunition into your belt or your rucksack. That the bookshelf is only so wide. There's only so many books you can fit on it at any one time.
Yes.
So it's also, we've got to look that this is under the year of the Saturn-Uranus square, the old and the new. And interestingly, Saturn and Uranus are contra-parallel to one another. So this is, whereas the square has lessened in intensity because it's what, 11 degrees orb now, it's still
it's going to get tight throughout the year. Like Saturn's going to retrograde to very tight orb.
Yeah, it's coming back. But right now they are contra-parallel, which is a similar energy to an opposition. So there really is that division of what you are leaving behind and what you are picking up. And some people will hold tightly onto their old things, and that's fine if they are doing it from a point of integrity. If they are doing it from the point of, this feels right to me because it is right for me and my family and my neighbors and the world in general, because it's the right thing to do. Because we need that balance. We need the balance, but we need people to grab Uranian things and we need people to grab Saturnian things, because if they only do one or the other, then everything will crumble.
I don't think we're letting go of things in this eclipse materially. I think many of us are going to be trying to manifest material things, and we are motivated to go for our project. But the thing is, it's just not given. It's just not given. You anything that you start right now is going to have this feeling of, oh, wait a minute, epiphany. That's why I was doing this the whole time. And now I can see it because I have put forward something that was according to a previous ideal that now I no longer prioritize. And I'm not capable of addressing anymore as true expression of myself. And therefore it needs to change. But you see how you are going to be in this narrative that I'm building. The people, us, we are going to be this vessel for manifesting this particular chart, right? We always are. But this is what I'm saying, like, you're going to be moving in a certain direction, and then you are going to wake up much like the lights get eclipsed, and you're going to have that lights off and on moment, and you're going to be like, oh, right, redirecting,
Darkness of the eclipse, then lightning of Uranus.
Yes, and that's how it's supposed to go. That's how it's supposed to be right now. So it's good, but good doesn't always mean comfortable. Good doesn't always mean stable. Good sometimes means making the right decisions to provide stability, to nurture a sense of stability, and thus generate it.
One thing that I find really amusing about this eclipse as well is at 13 degrees Taurus, so it's in the mix between the eclipse and Uranus, but it's not getting its way, is the asteroid Apophis, the serpent that is there to devour the sun every night. And by having that eclipse just before Apophis, it's almost like the gods are going, nope, you're not having it tonight, not for you.
No, it's another influence that it is, and it's another influence that just validates the imagery also of the nodes, because the nodes are also represented as snakes or dragons, primarily dragons, but people also use snakes as a signification of the nodes. For instance, if you have I think nakshatras that are ruled by the nodes, sometimes you get experiences with snakes or something like that. Or snakes are manifested physically in your environment somewhat. But that's very basic from other traditions that I don't necessarily use, just something that I know on the surface. But it is interesting that is associated with that imagery.
But there is, if you want to bring the 12 parts chart up,
yes,
because we've been going for so long already, I just want to look at the Sabian symbol for this degree. And there's some great symbols for this degree, but it's a woman watering flowers in her garden, and it's about developing the powers of the mind on which our egos are based. So it's to look for that fulfillment and transcendence of biological functions and drives, but I would also say, in the context that we've been talking, intellectual functions and drives as well. Again, there's this whole, how can this integrity that Jupiter is demanding through, praising his beautiful priestess Venus, how can I be more me that's to the benefit of all? Okay, I
would say that Saturn and Aquarius is also asking that question.
Yeah.
Because it's demanding in another way. Whilst Venus and Jupiter are kind of altruistic and like, oh, how can I do this in a way that I align myself with that ideal of good person that I have in my head and try to get to that, try to really embody that in a way that I see it manifest in my reality. Saturn is also simulating that, being like, I must do it for myself, because I've seen what marginalization or poverty or the things signified by Saturn and the restrictions of the past years can do, but because I see that society itself is so broken and so in all of these ways that I need to self-determine in order to determine who I'm associated with and what I stand for in that way. It gives that necessity as well.
So yes, I mean, like that point that you was just saying about society being broken, you ain't going to fix society until you fix yourself first. Loads of broken people will make a broken society. So this is where this integrity is being demanded. Now,
Saturn is in the 10th from the eclipse. With the benefics in the 12 parts there, isn't it?
This eclipse is giving us a lot of choices, and now we've brought the 12 parts into it, I can explain further what I mean, because the sun and the moon in the real chart, in the physical chart, are aspected to the 12th part of Uranus, funnily enough, by Hahahel again, but they are also aspected by the demon Focalor, within by his nighttime.
Can you say that again?
Focalor. There's by his presence ruling the nighttime decan that the Uranus is 12 parts in. So there's this angel demon choice, just like there's that Saturn contra parallel Uranus choice going on. Which one do I take? and there's that wanting to stick to integrity. Now, I'm not saying that if you take Focke-Law's path, that's necessarily the wrong one. It might be the perfect one for you to do. I didn't bring this card out ready. But it, as long as you are doing it for the right reasons, and Hahael's presence is this whole thing is here we are. Oh, he's a happy one. Oh, interestingly, controls the seas and the winds. How interesting with all that Jupiter, Neptune in Pisces going on, you know, like with a lot of the floods that we've seen around the world recently as well. He kills by drowning and can sink ships and will spare any life by request. Now, that's a really important thing, because Hahahel also has that protection from enemies through slander and what have you. There's one other angel here, which is the angel Caliel. Now, here I'm looking to Venus and Jupiter's 12th part. Let me see. Now, that's linking with the South Node. So 2 points of Caliel's pentagram. And Caliel is also about protection from enemies. There's this sense causes innocence to prevail, and has is an angel that empowers the sense or the ability of justice. So again, there's this demand and also reward of standing in integrity, doing the right thing, adhering to your own personal sense of justice, because there can be a difference between what I want and what I believe is right. But we are being asked to merge the two together, and slowly but surely there will be results, but it ain't going to feel like it for a long time. Not for a long time.
Yes.
Because you're going
the results, the immediate results that you're going to feel are the resilience that you're going to build up.
Yeah. You're going to get tested and tested and tested and tested. But if you're coming from the right place, you might get tested, and there might be a bit of you when you're tired and feeling low going, why am I doing this? And then immediately your mind, heart, soul, whichever part of you is speaking the loudest, will go, you know precisely why you're doing it, and you're going to keep doing it. So stop moaning.
Yes. Listen to that voice. It's going to be important.
Yeah. Right. Have you got?
Well, I find it interesting that you do. Sorry.
Yeah. Have you got anything for the 12 parts?
Just mention that there are also no 12 parts in fire signs, unless you consider these two. But
and you were pointing out the trines between all of them as well earlier.
Yes, you have this trine between the Mercury 12th part as well as the physical Mercury here to the 12th parts of Venus and Jupiter, suggesting that really a lot of the gold, again, of what we are trying to build here in this time comes from communicating, comes from connecting with others and being aware of other people's perspectives, so that we can really build new ideals for ourselves by mirroring off of each other. You know, that's how you build off your new character. If you are in a new scenario, in a new part of your life, you get to know new people, or even the old, just integrate more than you used to with the old ones that you already got. That will add some multiplicity in your life. That is going to give you some sense of security, and that's going to give you the multiplicity that you already need at this time. That's all I wanted to add with that.
There's one more demon I want to add about, and this nature of unpredictability, because I can imagine a month's time, 2 months' time, something happens, the doorbell goes, a letter comes through, an email, a text message, a noise down the road, and the immediate reaction will be, what now? Because there's the eclipse itself has an aspect to Aries via the demon Marbas. Now, Uranus obviously also has that same aspect then to Aries via, so Aries is pulling that discord in. Marbas is servant to Lucifer's Raphael, whose name translates as he who flees the light. So there's that element of, if he's going to be active at any point, it will be during an eclipse. So I think Marbas here is quite duly authorized to take actions during the duration of this chart energies. Now, he causes and cures diseases. That's a little double-edged at the moment. It's just slightly. Tells of secrets and things hidden. So I also feel that that secrets and things hidden is when we're going through that asking of ourselves, do I enjoy this? Why am I doing it? There's going to be quite a few revelations there where you go, well, I've been doing it because of this, but that reason doesn't make sense. And that's where the letting go bit comes in, because you suddenly go that, nope, I'm being a mad person, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And there's
being able to self-determine. Yeah, being able to self-determine in that way is a malefic experience. You need to take up power and tell yourself, I know this, I'm going to act like this because of that. And you already have everything set. This is very Martian. Mars doesn't question orders. It just goes and does it. So what's that? The sun is giving an order. The king's giving an order. So your perception, your awareness, you're like, I perceive that as a threat. Your Mars is like, surely I will defeat it. You know, I will go against it in the way that the sign is given. So if you have Mars, for instance, in Pisces, you're trying to tackle what's bothering you, what's giving you fear, and what's a threat to you through expanding your notion of what's possible to you. Something doesn't please you, doesn't matter, I can create another reality. I can leave whenever I want. You're just a Jupiterian ideal about it, especially with Venus there. If I am headstrong enough about this, I will achieve it. This is a Martian energy. With a South Node in Scorpio being ruled by that Mars, you're going to have to let go of some of those idealizations and just understand where that's just your hubris trying to avoid trauma.
Now, I want to carry on with this theme, because there's one final gift that Marbas gives, and that's the ability to make the magician, to give the magician the ability to shapeshift. And that is what is required of us during all of this. Now, I've been harping on about the integrity thing, because there's also another aspect to this chart. I had a look at the draconic chart for the eclipse. And interestingly, draconic Jupiter, which the draconic chart is supposed to represent the soul of the individual as he comes into existence and comes into the physical chart. So I suppose we'd be looking at this, the soul of the event, or the divine will behind this event. But that draconic Jupiter is conjunct the 12th part Jupiter, which is the motivation of Jupiter and Venus, obviously here, in this circumstance. So there's this overemphasis on acting your integrity. And another thing that I picked up, because this acting in your integrity thing, we have not mentioned, though I'm going to go love and light again, we have not mentioned the word healing.
Must you?
There's and this acting in your integrity is supposedly a healing process. And where I'm getting that from is the draconic Chiron. Well, I mean, common sense, for one thing, because listen to what we've been talking about. But also the draconic Chiron is conjunct the asteroid Esther, which is all about acting in your integrity. And obviously Chiron being the wound, the act of healing, and the act of teaching as well. That's an element that people forget about Chiron. He was a fantastic teacher. He was a teacher and trainer to many of the Greek heroes, not just Heracles, and the other two that were in my mind a minute ago have just fallen out the flap of the back of my head. But, you know, there's more than just Heracles. So there's this is, I'm sort of reminded, I want to talk about healing, but I'm sort of reminded from the movie Fame, where the dance teacher Lydia, well, actually this TV series, I think, but the dance teacher Lydia just went, fame costs, and here's where you start paying. Well, healing hurts. And it's supposed to. Go on.
Wow, thank you. You reminded me of actually an allegory that I wanted to bring to this eclipse, which is the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the book by C.S. Lewis. You have the scene where Eustace. Yeah, we have a different name in Portuguese, but when he becomes, well, should I give spoilers? Spoiler ahead. If you don't want to know about the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, spoilers, just skip a little bit. There's this part where this boy just becomes a dragon, and he stays as a dragon for a while in the story until he finds this island where he has to go alone, and he is completely exposed with all water around him. I think it wasn't a cave; it was just a little island, right? That he had come to. And then he starts scratching his scales off, and it hurts. The book describes it as hurts a lot. It's one of the worst pains that he felt, but it was incredibly satisfying and liberating each time he felt that pain, until he became a boy again. So, and the gist of it was Eustace was a very, very bratty individual early in the book. Until that part, and then he becomes a dragon, which is being dominated by the nodes, the obsession, the lower energies of life that are present and are divine in a way and have to be recognized and respected. But at the same time, they have to have their place. And if you want to be aware of your actions and in control of your actions, you might as well ride the dragon. And that's the thing, like that allegory of him becoming a boy and it's peeling off the dragon with his own claws. That's what I feel like we're doing here in this exalted moon moment. And that happened because he reconnected to the group. He realized how much of a part of the group he was, how much he needed his companions, how much alone he felt, and how he was tired of just being resistant to everyone who tried to show him some kindness and companionship, you know? And this is something that I think is going to come up a lot. So if you want to read that book, is a very good imagery that character specifically brings to this eclipse.
The Narnia books are fantastic. They are. And again, this is all the long-term plan of Hahahel through this whole Venus-Uranus cycle that is just coming to a close. I haven't looked yet who the degree angel of the next Venus-Uranus cycle is, but I think I'll be keeping a very close eye on them from in the next few charts. That's me. Should I say something about staying in your integrity one more time? You know, just in case.
No, I think we drove it.
Yeah.
I think I did a good job so far.
Right, so as ever, I mentioned earlier that I'll be running a course later this year about using angels and demons in the chart through Bloodstone Studios. That's bloodstone.info, but that should be probably the back end of summer, to be quite honest. I've still got a lot of work to do on it, which is another reason why I haven't been doing as many tarot readings recently. I do apologize, you know, the course of the day job and this chart. My God, I'm still going to be working on it for another month.
Yeah, if you're a Capricorn watching this video and you demand that Dee does at least the Capricorn readings for the month, please drop a comment, give us a like, and if it goes above let's say 500 likes, we're going to have an exclusive Capricorn reading in Darren's channel, channel.
Yeah, because we're going to get 500 views.
Being optimistic.
So I had the pleasure of appearing on your channel again recently. There's where were we? Aries 3, weren't we?
Aries 3. So yeah, Dee and I have recorded recently, and it's just uploaded the video for Aries 3 tarot associations that we have with the Decanic Walk that we're taking along with Elsa and Katie. So if you go to my channel, in the first place, Astrology, at the links down below. And to Elsa's channel, Hellenistic Astrology, you'll find that those Decanic Watt companion videos. Her videos are longer in her channel. We go deep into the astrology, symbolism. We just have a discussion like we have here with Dee. And in my channel, we have a quick, shorter version with bullet points, things that you can quickly relate back to if you want to reignite that understanding of the decans that you're going through in your studies. So do check that out. It's very interesting and we're loving to do it. The artist of the thumbnails is my cousin, so you guys can check his handle also in the description of my videos. Be sure to subscribe as well. Also, can I mention my website?
Yeah, I was about to forget myself, you know, because do not forget that you can go to David for an astrology reading, natal, transits. What else are you offering at the moment?
Yeah, I do predictive work. So if you want to know, oh, is the next year, how's the next year going to go for me? What are the things that I need to look out for? Which areas of my life are in danger of, you know, coming across some challenges? What areas of my life are benefited? What should I hope for? Basically, what should I prepare for? Solar return readings, therefore, include all the techniques. Like perfections, the dark releasing. I also do tutoring for those same techniques. So if you're a beginner astrologer and you want to start your client practice, I can help you with it. I've been doing this for like 2022, 4 years almost. I've been seeing clients, and within those 4 years, I've been lapidating my practice with these techniques enough to where now I've gotten to a comfortable point to teach them and to show you with examples that I've got how you can apply them to your practice. So yeah, that's that.
As ever, all the links are down below, and I will finally remember to say, if you've lasted this long, smash that like button, because let's face it, you've lasted this long.
Yes,
but,
so might as well.
I have some space for private readings, not a great deal, but just contact details down below for myself, for David, for Elsa's channel, Hellenistic Astrology. I really should put a bloodstone.info link down there as well, shouldn't I really? But in the meantime, good luck, everybody. There is a point in all of this that we are going through and about to go through, and maybe about to go through for quite some time. And let's not talk about the eclipse that happens 2 weeks later, because that's going to, mind you, hopefully that one won't last quite as long either. I think compared to with this one, if you're saying 4 years, that one might be more of a flash in the pan. 6 months will feel like a break, you know. But we'll discuss that in 2 weeks' time. So as I say, like, share, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Stay in your integrity, folks, and explore. That's the other thing that this thing is about. Explore, because you will get shown loads. Some of it will be useless and some of it will be great. All right, cheers.
Cheers, everyone.